are plenty of American stories left for Ryan Murphy left to tell. The prolific producer behind FX's American Horror Story and American Crime Story expands his franchise of domestic dramas with 2 new spin-offs, American Sports Story and American Love Story, the network announced Friday. The 2 new series already have topics for their first seasons. Sports will base its first installment on Gladiator, Aaron Hernandez and Football Incorporated, the podcast from the Boston Globe and Wondery. The project charts the rise, fall and death of the NFL star, a convicted murderer, exploring the connections of the disparate strands of his identity, his family, his career, his suicide, and their legacy in sports and American culture, FX says in a statement. Love will first explore the whirlwind courtship and marriage of John F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a 1999 plane crash, and Caroline Bessette. The new spin-off anthology series will also be produced by Brad Falchuk, Nina Jacobson, and Brad Simpson. Murphy's latest FX American series include American Horror Story, double feature, August 25th, 10 EDT/PDT, and Impeachment, American Crime Story, due September 7th, 10 EDT/PDT, which focuses on Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky in the 1990s, starring Clive Owen and Benny Feldstein. The first trailer for the season was also released Friday. FX also confirmed it is developing a potential next installment of Crime Story, tentatively titled Studio 54, American Crime Story, telling the saga of Steve Rubel and Ian Schrager, who in 1977 turned their Midtown Manhattan disco into an international mecca of nightlife for the rich and famous and commoners alike, renowned for its lavish parties, music, sex and drugs, FX says. With Rubel and Schrager's meteoric rise came their epic fall less than 3 years later when the impresarios were convicted of tax fraud. Murphy's episodic anthology series American Horror Stories debuted on Hulu this summer with episodes starring Paris Jackson, Matt Bomer, and Kaya Gerber. The show, which the network described as its most successful FX on Hulu launch, will return for a second season, FX confirmed. American Horror Stories, Paris Jackson says her vindictive character makes my blood boil.